Endless Hustle is presented by Routine. Routine helps you unlock optimal health and daily performance by leveraging AI, in-home testing, and the latest in digital health tools to create a completely personalized micronutrient formula full of vitamins, minerals, and specialty compounds precisely dosed for your body based on your unique DNA, blood tests, and lifestyle habits. The process is simple, and thousands of members are choosing Routine and reporting results like more energy, better stress management, improved mental clarity, and more. Visit routine.co to join. All right, it is a great day on the Endless Hustle as I have one of my all-time favorites. And here's the craziest shit of it all. I've been doing this for a decade, Kevin Smith, and I realized I don't think I've ever spoken to you, and I've talked to everybody in this business. So
this is awesome. This is a first, and you have a chance to become my favorite or the most forgettable interview ever. The choice is yours, my friend.
He's like first or last. We'll decide. We'll decide soon enough.
This is America. We know there's only best and worst. That's it.
Hey, brother, congratulations. Obviously, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That was my favorite growing up. I'm sure you've heard it from a million people over the last few weeks. So to know that you brought it back and made it cool and just paid it the respect that it deserves is cool as shit. How cool is it to bring this franchise to a new generation?
It's fantastic, man. I've been watching 10 years of Marvel movies and watching them do this very thing, studiously watching them as a fan, and never as somebody who's like, I could copy this formula. I have my own universe with Jay and Silent Bob and stuff, so I was happy with those characters and content, lucky to be able to even do my own thing. But after, digging what Kevin Feige and Marvel have been doing for like over a decade, when Mattel reached out to me and was like, do you have any interest in maybe doing an animated series for Masters of the Universe? Suddenly I was like, this is my chance to do and give back. Like the way I grew up reading all the Marvel comics, now the Marvel movies spoon feed me my childhood back to me in tastier recipes and stuff. So I get to enjoy the same meals again as I did like as a kid and whatnot. I was like, this is what we do for the Motu audience. The idea is like everything you remember, absolutely true. We ain't reinventing anything. Everyone looks the same. Everyone behaves the same. Our manifest, though, was just to tell the next story. The idea was like, what if this was the next episode of the old cartoon, and instead of having to make it directly for children, they got to make it for those children who grew up. So what if somebody could get stabbed in that world? What if somebody could die in that world? Like basically, you just add the element of stakes, which Masters of the Universe never really had in the cartoon. And suddenly it changes everything. It makes it like a little exciting. It makes it like, oh, and that is what people remember. Like I've now, of course, over the last 2 years, and particularly like the last month since the teaser dropped, I've interacted with all iterations of Masters of the Universe fans, people who are the toy people, people who are the cartoon people, the Mike Young people, the movie only people, all across the spectrum. And there's all types of different Masters of the Universe fans. And they all have memories of a show that didn't exist. Like, when they talk about the old cartoon, the Filmation cartoon, they forget that it was a show made literally for kids with a moral lesson at the end, and nobody was allowed to strike each other. Nobody could hit each other. A guy had a sword and he never used it, So what they remember is like the show tainted with all their childhood memories of actually playing Masters of the Universe, where their figures could stab each other and you could do whatever you want. So when we dropped that first teaser, like people were like, this looks like my childhood. And I was like, it really doesn't. Like it's the colors of it and all the characters do, but go back and watch the show and they never did shit like this. What we're playing with is your nostalgia, your memory of the show, how you made it better. And that's the beauty of the Masters of the Universe franchise. It's never one thing. It was never created by one person. It's not like, the lady that created Harry Potter and all the ideas come from her. This thing has had so many parents, like in the first 3 years of its life and the last 35 years of its life as well, including the fact that like Mattel created a bunch of stuff, but DC Comics created like Prince Adam. There was no dual identity until DC in 1982 started writing the comics. Orko doesn't come in until like the cartoon itself. So there's lots of iterations to play with. And all you have to do is give them the one that looks and feels, more importantly, what they remember, like exactly what they remember.
I want to take you all the way back to the beginning. You're this budding filmmaker. You bet the farm. You go to Vancouver for like 4 months to learn how to make movies. You bet the farm and you're like, let me make this movie and see what happens. That movie turns out to be Clerks and launches you into becoming Kevin Smith. Do you ever look back and think to yourself, holy shit, I bet the farm. What if it hadn't worked out?
Every fucking day. Still to this day. I'm in this job, in my career, this job as Kevin Smith professionally, 27 years at this point, 28 if you count the year that we actually made Clerks. I always count when like it got picked up at Sundance. So 27 years of this, and I swear this is no bullshit. I swear to you from the bottom of my fucking heart, this is true. Not a day goes by where I don't go, fuck, that worked out. Because I was on the line, bro. Like it was like I had credit cards, like because I'd applied for all these credit cards, but I didn't have money to back that up. Like I was an average American, tons of credit cards, no fucking money whatsoever. And my mom had always told me, like, don't you ever use those credit cards. But suddenly I had a thing that was worth like throwing that good advice to the wind for, where I was like, I can finance a movie on these credit cards. And if it works, I could change my life. I could be what I want to be for a living, as opposed to accept what I have to accept and working for somebody else. So it was a gamble, but in the moment, it never felt like it. Like in the moment, it was like I had no choice. It's like, this is how it has to go. Like, you know, I have to do it now while I'm young. I still live at my parents' house. Like I went to film school. I was never that ambitious. I didn't go to college, dropped out many times, but for some reason, this seemed to make sense to me. And I was like, if I put all my energy into this, there's a chance that like this could be a real thing. Even if it doesn't become my career, at least I get to make a fucking movie. All these other indie kids, they're making movies. Why not me? So I was fueled by passion and like inexperience and ignorance. Thankfully, I was living at home at my parents', right? So I didn't have to worry about financial overhead. And my parents were patient enough with me where they're like, let him make this movie. He'll get it out of his system. Then he'll go be a waiter like his brother and stuff. And so I was like, I'm fine with that. If that's what you think could happen, great. I'm going to take my shot. And so in doing it, it was all like moving forward, passion, volition. Like it was literally 2 years from the moment I saw Slacker, less than 2 years, to the point where I was watching Clerks in a theater. I saw somebody do something that spoke to me. I was like, I think I could do that too, and poured myself into pursuing it and then did it. And the first day we showed the movie at the IFFM, the Independent Feature Film Market, nobody was there to see it except me and the people that made it, the cast. And so my first screening of Clerks, I sank in my seat. I'd never seen it projected. All I could think was, why does this thing look so fucking bad? It looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. And everybody keeps cursing. Why do they keep cursing so much? Why did I think that was cool? Like I'm out of my mind. I've wasted money. Like I'm out $27,000 on credit cards, which probably means 40 something thousand after like interest and shit. But then 10 minutes into the movie, I had this feeling, this calm come over me, where I was like, look, 2 years ago, you came to the IFFM and you watched people's movies here. And now you're sitting in one of those movie theaters and you're watching your own movie. And yeah, maybe it's not like what you thought it would be. It ain't going to be bought like Slacker was picked up and bought. But you didn't, like, that wasn't the dream. The dream was to make a movie, and you made a movie. And you loved who the fuck you were when you were making this movie. For the first time in your life, you understood exactly who you were. It's like when your brother came out and he was like, I'm gay, the world makes sense. I was like, I'm a filmmaker. I get it now. That's why I'm so bossy. I know why everything should be and shit. So I told myself in that screening, I was like, look, pay this back. You might have to get 2 other jobs, not just Quick Stop, but you have to pay back this credit card debt. But once you're out of that hole, you have to do this again, even if it's just one more time, because you finally knew who you were when you were doing this. And at that point, I relaxed and enjoyed the rest of the movie in an empty theater and stuff. And then the next morning, everything changed. There was somebody at that screening that like called and started talking to people. Bob Hawk is his name. And he spread the word. And all of a sudden we started getting calls from people going, I wasn't at that screening, but I need to see this movie and stuff. That generated interest. So it was by the skin of our teeth that almost nothing happened. And it wasn't until the movie got picked up, like, because you're rushing, man, you're moving with all your passion and volition toward a possible goal. And when we finally hit that goal, that's when I had a moment to relax and breathe. And I looked back and realized how fucking foolhardy the whole affair was. I never made a movie in my life. Like, I watched movies, big fucking deal. For some reason, I saw Slacker and I was like, I should do what that guy did. I can make a movie with my friends. Why not? Here in New Jersey, that makes sense. But like, I was so caught up in it. I was so young. I had a safety net under me because I was still living at my parents. I dropped out of college enough where I hadn't cost my parents much money. So the day came where I was like, look, we're poor. I don't have any cash and stuff, but I know you guys have like $3,000 and we need that to rent the camera package. I can't put that on my credit card. My parents were like, you know what? We'll give it to him because this is it. Like, he didn't go to college. He didn't ask for college money. Let him make his silly movie and stuff. Everything will, then he'll settle down. And when the movie became what it became, like, you know, my parents were fucking more shocked than anybody because they're like, we know this idiot. What do you mean he made something valuable and stuff? But they bought into it quick. Like, I remember I showed my mother Clerks first time. She goes, you spent $27,000 on that piece of garbage. That was her initial review of my first film. Then when the movie got picked up, we had a like premiere and shit, and Entertainment Tonight was there. My mom was there, and they interviewed me and my mom together. And oh my God, the amount of gushing. She was like, you know, he was always very clever. Yes, the movie has some words in it that I don't appreciate, but like, he did this all on his own and shit like that. She became the world's biggest Kevin Smith fan. And she'll still be like, don't curse so much. But I'm like, Ma, it's all about curse. I get paid to curse at this point, for heaven's sake.
I was front runner. Your mom's a front runner.
She was, man. But I was scared, and I still think about it to this day. Whenever I tell kids, like, because I'm out there talking a lot and stuff, and I interact with young people who are like, I dream about doing what you do and shit. And I interact with old people who are the same way. And I tell the old people, I was like, look, don't leave this life without making a film. If you feel that, don't leave this life without doing it. I said, but you got to remember, when I did it, I had no wife, no kid, and I was living at my parents' house. So those were three benefits. I didn't have to think about my loved ones beyond my parents and shit. And it was really their job to think about me since I was their son. So I was safely cocooned when I made this first attempt. So I implore all kids, if you're young and you're like, I think I might like this, do it while you're living at your parents' houses. And naturally, in this day and age, everybody lives at their parents' houses and stuff. But the time is when you're young and stuff. It doesn't mean that like when you're old, you've aged out of it. Then you just have other people to consider. And unfortunately, the arts is about being selfish. It's one of the most selfish fucking acts in the world, to write a song, to paint a painting, to make a movie, to write a book, because you're telling the world what's on your mind, how you feel. World didn't ask you for that. World didn't knock on your door and be like, what are your thoughts on this? It's an artist putting themselves out there, like just giving the world something the world didn't ask for, and hoping against hope that the world winds up wanting it, realizing that they need it and stuff like that. So like, if you're older and you have people to think about those people, square them away, but do this thing. Because it's gotten cheaper. When we started, it's like 27 grand to make a cheap movie. Now you could literally make, they made the Florida Project on a fucking iPhone, right? Like, you could shoot a movie for peanuts at this point. But don't leave this world and not doing it, but always consider those around you. Like, if you've started a family, you've got responsibilities. When I made Clerks, I didn't have those responsibilities yet. Like, my only responsibility was kind of to myself, and I was shiftless and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I dropped out of college, and I figured the best thing that could happen to me would be like, I could open a deli, because I sure knew how to make a sandwich. And then boom, film. So like, I was a kid, 21 when I saw Slacker. 20, I went to film school. By the time I made Clerks, I was started before I was 23. So like, I finished Clerks at 22, and then 23 took it out into the world. It was a wonderful time to fuck up. But the adult Kevin Smith, who's now a parent, who's now lived many years, I'm almost 51. I look at the fucking kid Kevin Smith and I'm like, where did you get the balls? Like, who did you think you were? Like, now I'm an adult, so I want to say adult shit to that kid. Like, the same shit parents would have said to me, like, you sure you want to do this? You might want to have a real job as a backup and shit like that. But like, now I have the benefit of having lived through it and seeing what happens and stuff. So I try to caution, I try to give kids as much inspiration as possible. Everybody, kids and older people, like, you could do this. If you feel creative, be fucking creative, particularly in the age of the internet. Like, the sky's the limit. People are becoming millionaires, multimillionaires off of TikTok videos, for heaven's sakes. So if you have something creative to express, bring it to the world. That's the only difference. World's never going to come to you. They will never, ever fucking come knocking on your door and be like, what do you have to offer? There's too many other options out there. So if you feel like you have something to offer, you got to bring it to them. You got to take the first steps toward it, man. There's two paths in this life: creation and destruction. Destruction paths are fucking full because it's easy to make fun of a thing. It's easy to tear a thing down. It requires you put nothing of yourself into it. The creation lanes are wide the fuck open, easy for traveling, because that requires you put something of yourself into it, something that a lot of people aren't willing to do. It doesn't make you better than the other people. It just makes you different. It makes you fucking creative. If you feel that, lean into it. I don't care what age you are, but just always understand that if you got dependents, responsibility, you can't like throw your family away at age 50 and be like, I'm going to be a 25-year-old filmmaker. No. Make sure you take care of your home before you go into your potential fantasy world. And it ain't just fantasy, kids, because I stand before people like as a living example. Some cats are just like, oh man, that fucking don't happen to me. I'm like, bullshit. I'm a chimp. I'm not fucking educated. I don't have a fucking college degree to save my life. I got a bunch of honorary degrees now. I said, but I pulled it together, man, with no means, from bumblefuck, New Jersey. So I'm the last person in the world that you could tell that only happens to some people. Like, I know it can happen to people who are undeserving like myself and untalented like myself, but passion will take you a long way toward a thing. Don't matter how old you are, but just know that there are risks. Because sometimes, most times, I'll be honest with you, it don't work out like it did for me. We had a Cinderella story. It was like 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and it worked out because we said the right thing at the right time and stuff. But getting your foot in the door, like one thing, staying in the room is a completely different other thing. And that's like a decades-long struggle to stay relevant, to stay interesting, to not keep doing the same thing while still being familiar. Like, Jay and Silent Bob's still very much a part of my life, and we try to grow them up and do different things with them. But like, familiar is nice. He-Man and the Master of the Universe, familiar to a lot of people. This is me working on something that generally I don't get to reach this many people. I reach Jay and Bob audience or the Clerks audience with my stuff. But since this teaser drop, I have been hearing from so many people who are like, this is my childhood. Like, you literally are doing my childhood and you're doing it justice. So it feels like being given a Star Wars or a Marvel, to be honest with you, the amount of like pressure and people being like, you better not fuck up. And mercifully, I feel like we didn't. I think we gave him the show that at least I wanted to see.
Congratulations, Kevin. Awesome job. That was one of the most impassioned speeches I think I've ever heard, man. And that's why you're Kevin Smith. So congratulations, Masters of the Universe Revelations. It is now on Netflix. You're awesome, man. Absolutely huge fan. And hopefully I ended up at the higher tier of not
I was
getting
going to say, Arthur, you're at the top end, man, not the bottom half.
Thank you, my man. Pleasure having you on the show. You're welcome back anytime, Kevin.
Please, I'll come do it in a heartbeat, man. Thank you so much.
You are the man, brother. Good luck with everything. See you soon.
You as well. Have a great day.
Take care, brother.